I'm seeing a lot of Michigan fans freaking out about the coaching search in the past day or so. I'm going to explain to you why you shouldn't on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers who watch or listen to the show every single day. Also, thank you for making us your first listen for this first segment. We're going to start where things appear to stand. Then in segment 2, we'll address some of the misconceptions. Finally, we'll break down how I think this will go based on a mixture of things I know, things I think, and as well as just adding in some other factors, speculation and such. So let's just dive right in here. It's been kind of funny to see just a lot of the consternation kind of across the board, especially in the wake of the seeming revelation that Jedd Fisch appears to be out. Let me just say this, and I heard this from a colleague. This was not firsthand sourced by me. I heard the reason. It's not catastrophic, right? But I think it's one of those things where it's like, if you're Michigan, I think it's the right move. Okay, I don't think it's anything catastrophic. Okay. Like, this isn't impugning Jedd's character. I love Jedd. I just think that, okay, if you're Michigan, then maybe something else, okay? And that's all I got on that. Like, I ask that you don't speculate. I know that that's not how things work, but I'm just saying, just like, it's the same thing as everyone else has kind of put out there. And I know there's people that be like, oh, Michigan should get over itself. No, not after what it's just endured, right? Like, PR hit after PR hit after PR hit after PR hit. Michigan needs someone who is beyond reproach, above reproach, all of those things, right? I agree with those who say, like, we need to stop thinking about the Michigan man mantra of it all. Like, we have gone so far beyond that at this point. So there's that first and foremost. But ultimately, I think where this stands is, like, you've been primed, whether you're a watcher or listener to this show, you've been either over on the Wolverine or on Maize and Blue Review. I can't speak for 24/7, the Michigan Insider, nor can I Go blog either at this point, just because I'm not over there. But I've been trying to tell you that this weekend is kind of the point that you need to look to. And as far as it stands at the moment, like, nothing's changed. And like, I understand, like, there's a candidate that has essentially been removed from the equation, but that doesn't mean that anything has changed in terms of who the top targets are. And I understand that, so the main conversation I had about all of this, I had with a very good source, very close to the situation. And I had that conversation before Kalen DeBoer put out his first statement, and certainly before he was asked about it at his Monday press conference. But, like, this is what this is, right? This is what the coaching search is. Until he gets a contract extension, like, remember, like, Bruce Feldman, I know there were a lot of people that didn't like that I had him on. Too bad we did. Like, I wanted to get an outside perspective of how things are looking at the moment. But, like, you know, he said he wouldn't be surprised if Kalen DeBoer gets that contract extension, paper in hand, and then therefore signs it before the game on Friday, right? Like, that's always been a possibility. It's a possibility for any candidate you have out there that isn't currently in a job, right? You run that risk. And when you are dealing with the Kalen DeBoer of it all, he's kind of in a weird intermediate space, a liminal space, right? Because if he loses on Friday, which I think is somewhat, Michigan somewhat contingent on to some degree, right? If he loses on Friday, there's going to be a lot of really upset Crimson Tide fans. And And even if Michigan wasn't in there, they would have been saying all kinds of things. I mean, if you don't have to live under a rock to know or understand that, if you're a Michigan fan, you just go to a message board during a game and you'll see kind of similar moments. The moment that the opposing team gets a first down, right? The first down, it's like fire wink, get rid of them, start over, right? Like it's the same type of thing. So that with a coupled 2-4-loss seasons in Tuscaloosa, like he wouldn't be going into a safe space. So here's the thing. He absolutely could get that contract in hand and sign it. But until that point, Michigan is still very much in it. And I also, I want to save this. I'm going to save what I was going to say. To segment 2. I was about to address a misconception, trying to get ahead of myself. But with Kenny Dillingham, as we've explained, he's in the opposite position. He is sitting in the throne at this point. He's in pole position because Arizona State, yes, they want him to sign an extension. But if he says, like, I'm going to wait a week to do it, they're not going to fire him, nor are they going to revoke the extension. Like, they're going to continue to hope that he stays in Tempe because he's their best option, right? Like, Alabama, certainly, if things don't go well for Kalen DeBoer, not just this year, but certainly after next year, could be looking for a different option, as it were. So they are in different spots, number one. And we've talked about this already. I'm reiterating for the people in the back, essentially. But additionally, like, we've been priming you. I know that Chris Ballas and Josh Henschke, with your respective audiences out there, have been priming you to say, like, we're waiting to the weekend. That's been the case. And yet there's a lot of people out there that are just like, ooh, day one, you're like on Saturday, Sunday, you're like, okay, next week, cool. But then you get to Monday and Tuesday and there's no movement and you want to feel like there's been movement. And there's been movement, right? Like, turnkey, I do believe is, again, this is more of me speculating based off of just what I've read. Again, not firsthand info. We always have to clarify this, apparently. But it has turned in its list of candidates, which is why the Jedd Fisch stuff went the way it went. And now we're just, like, hey, that wasn't number one on the board as it was. I understand it makes you feel uncomfortable not having the person that you didn't want. Therefore, no longer there in the fallback position. But like the guys you want out there are still out there. Michigan's got much deeper pockets than I think a lot of people recognize. It's got the brand recognition. It's got a lot of things that could work in the favor of either coach. A little less pressure if you're Kalen DeBoer. You've been up and around here. There's I have not verified this on my own, but there are people out there that say that his wife's family's from Washtenaw County, right? Like you aren't in a position where you are expected to follow up Nick Saban. And as much as he can say, well, and he knew he was getting into that and he wanted to be in that position. It's one thing to be in that position or not be in that position and say, I want it, compared to actually doing it. It's kind of like when I started my job at United Talent Agency. I was of the mindset of, like, I had read the book Mailroom. I had read Ovitz. I knew everything that supposedly was going to be a part of being an agent trainee. I knew I was going to be on a high pressure environment, constantly yelled at. I knew what the job entailed. It's different knowing it and doing it, right? It's different having that pressure, knowing what the pressure is going to be and actually being under that pressure. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's kind of the case for Kalen DeBoer in some degree. Maybe he signs and resigns with Alabama. Well, Kenny Dillingham's still there. I don't think, this is speculative on my part, I don't think they're going to get past that point because they're going to make it attractive enough for one of the two. And I don't know if that's even the order that they'll go in, right? Because you have to at least even get to the point where you are speaking to both of these guys. And with Kalen DeBoer, you're not speaking to him yet, right? So it's, you at least want to know what you're working with before you make any big decisions. And I know that makes some people uncomfortable. Welcome to the world of college football. It's a heck of a lot better to be right than it is to be first. It's kind of like anything. All right, let's get to some of the misconceptions, and we're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as it unfolds. Every drive, hold on a second. Here we go. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, the receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. Keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you for making Locked On Wolverines your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Wolverines with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, there's some misconceptions going on here. And I'm going to try to clear up kind of what I can come up with here. We kind of addressed some of that here in segment 1. But first and foremost, let's talk about the AD situation. Because we've seen this come up. I had this conversation with Steve Dace not long before starting this show, and we were both in agreement here. I agree with what Bruce Feldman said to a point. And that it might make some uncomfortable. That it feels like with Michigan's athletic department under internal investigation, internal by the University of Michigan, but handled by the White Glove Group, right? White Shoe, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember what it's called. Not my world. It's not my circus, not my monkeys. So, but I have a hard time seeing Warde Manuel getting through it. Maybe he does. Right. But at the same time, like some of the things I read are insane. I can tell you this. No, I don't really know who is the actual like deciding persons on this. I just know with a lot of the conversations I've had that there are a lot of people who have their hands in it and they all seem to be aligned. OK. But like I see some really just bizarre takes and like the Warde Manuel derangement syndrome, and keeping in mind, again, I am friends with Warde. Also, I don't expect him to be able to retain his job, just given everything that's happened over the course of the last several years, with this Sherrone Moore one being the most public and embarrassing, right? But you know, whether he keeps his job or not, like the people out there who act like Warde is going to go and sign Middle Tennessee State's special teams coach as the new head coach if he's left to his own devices. Like, that is absurd. I understand he didn't hire Jim Harbaugh. He did hire Sherrone. There was, I will say this, a lot of revisionist history going on. There were maybe like 5% were pushing back on the idea of hiring Sherrone, but like most everyone was like, yeah, he's kind of earned it at this point. It's got to be him. Given the late tenure, or late departure, I should say, for Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL. Everyone felt, I think, pretty much, and maybe some are coming out of the woodwork that weren't speaking up and saying like, oh, I didn't feel this way. The general consensus was, whether it was, you know, me, my colleagues, national media, fan base, right? Like generally everyone looked at it and said, this is the best way that you can win now. He's somewhat earned it by climbing through the ranks and being a pivotal part of the national championship team. You get to keep as much as possible. And he'd kind of gone through the paces, right? Like, should more vetting have gone on? Absolutely. We can say that in hindsight for sure. But at the same time, there were very few people railing against the hire. Some certainly were. I'm not saying that was everybody. So if you're sitting there saying like I was railing against it, like, okay, I'm not talking about you. But the general consensus was that, yeah, he's earned it, right? Like you've seen it happen at other programs. Once his trouble started kind of brewing in terms of just the on-field results, yeah, of course, everyone was kind of like, is this Brady Hoke or whatever? But it's not like anyone was saying this about Ryan Day at Ohio State, who kind of had the similar trajectory moving up, right? Recently promoted, serving as an interim coach, got some strife happening behind the scenes, and then he gets promoted, and it was kind of a similar trajectory. And I think that was the hope that the same type of thing could happen and work in Ann Arbor. And in terms of the rivalry, it worked for 1 year, but like in terms of the program trajectory, it didn't. So yes, he hired him. He also hired Juwan Howard. And, that one wasn't quite as popular as Sherrone in a lot of ways. But you look at that and say, oh, he hired these guys. But then at the same time, he also did hire Dusty May. And for anyone who says, well, John Beilein had to close the deal. Like, that's a normal thing, right? Like, the AD doesn't have to be the most persuasive person when it comes to getting the deal done. You just have to find a way to get the deal done. And with that, I want to address another misconception. It's like, well, what coach is going to want to come there without knowing who your boss is? Like, the hierarchy of things on paper is surely that. But like, at the same time, if you're winning, as any of these coaches would believe they would do to coming to Michigan, no one's like, I'm going to go to Michigan for 2-3 years, collect a payday, and then I'm out. Right? That's not how they're looking at it. They're like, I can go there and I can win big. If you're winning, like, generally, like, you're not really answering to the AD. And when it comes to asking for resources, Michigan's already got all the resources. When it comes to, trying to get the NIL and all that stuff going, like, at this point, it's not even Warde Manuel anyway. It's the collectives that handle all that stuff, right? So I just needed to say that, because it's like, again, I'm not sticking up for Warde, but like, we don't need to live in fantasy land and create these scenarios that don't exist or wouldn't exist. Like, Warde's not going to go out and be like, hey, maybe Bobby Petrino would be a good coach. Like, it's just creating idiotic narratives in order to, like, make yourself feel like there's no chance that Michigan can get this done. With that in mind, like, there seems to be this idea that Michigan can't get it done. Oh, we're going to be waiting until February or whatever. Like, I have not sensed any kind of turmoil behind the scenes. And this idea that, hey, Kalen DeBoer said publicly he doesn't want to be in it. Why are you waiting for him? Number one, we don't know that for sure that they are. Number two, you have to keep in mind that the Michigan contingent making these decisions knows more than you do, right? Like, if Kalen DeBoer is out of consideration, truly, they would know that, and then they would act accordingly. And if they feel like he's still in play, like, it's not like his agent and him have all said, we're out. We don't want anything to do with you. And Michigan's just standing outside of his window with a boombox over their head. Okay. And we don't even know if it's gotten to that point or not. But this idea that Michigan is screwing this up, like, there is no indication of that. Again, I defer to what we said last week. Like, they have been deliberate in the timing of this, and it's more important to get it right than to do it fast. And I know there's people that will disagree with that, but like, you do it fast. Like, how many times do you have to look at the Floridas and the Auburns, of the world, and recognize that you don't want to be one of those programs that is having to reset every couple years because you're impatient and you do it fast. Do it right. And they know what they're, as Jim Hackett talked about, swim lanes, knowing to that point in which, like, okay, for this candidate, this is the longest we can go. For that candidate, maybe we can go a little bit longer, right? Like, understanding what's at stake here. And as far as I've heard from people that are close to the collectives, people who are close to the regions, people close to other sources, they know what they're getting into here. So essentially relax. Like, at this point on Wednesday, like, I don't expect there to be some big breaking news. I know you want developments every day. You're not going to get them every single day. So what is it that I think is going to happen? How exactly do I think this is going to play out? Let's talk about that a little bit more, and let's do that here in just a moment. But before we do, the holidays come with two big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts they'll actually love. And when you want both handled in one move, Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experience right to your door. It's actually quite legitimately incredible. Because their sizzle all of the way sale, you can stock up and save in a huge way. 50% off site-wide at Omaha Steaks. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 off with code COLLEGE at checkout. I love how easy it is to gift. Shows up frozen, packed beautifully, ready to cook. Steaks are perfectly aged and insanely tender. It's restaurant level at home. So many options. Fillets, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts. Everything that you could possibly want. You can build a box for anyone. Holiday magic made easy. Order by 6 p.m. and it's going to ship this very same day. Save big on gourmet gifts and holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during the Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code COLLEGE. Yeah, that's it. All right, let's, how do I think this is going to go? I'm not sold that it's 100% like, you know, there are some behind the scenes that certainly feel like Kalen DeBoer is going to be the guy. There are others who I don't think are quite so sure. I think there's a cautious optimism, right? Like the coaching search, it's you're wooing somebody, right? Like it's the same thing as recruiting. You know, there's a lot of people that treat recruiting and we've talked about this a lot. A lot of people treat recruiting with the idea that, the moment Michigan offers or they're on the radar, that the kid knows that where he's going to go, and it's all about coaxing out the details until you finally find out it's Michigan, and then you go from there. No, it's about convincing, and money speaks in a different way in a coaching search. So do resources. So do a lot of other things. Just to kind of touch on something I didn't mention with the disambiguation of it all in the last segment. Michigan 2014 also didn't have a permanent AD. They just hired a president who was taking effect and around that time. And, they were coming off of some scandalous things, wasn't as bad as what's happening right now. I don't think it's really turning any of the candidates away at this juncture, right? It's still Michigan. It's still, people are going to say, oh, well, I think that those are negotiating tactics that somewhat play out in the public. That's the other thing you have to remember. Some of these negotiating tactics are going to play out in the public, right? Sweeten the pot for me, because I feel like I'm taking a big risk coming here. How do I think this is going to play out? I think you just got to wait till the weekend. I've been very clear of who I want to be the choice. And I go back and forth. I feel like I've sold myself on Dillingham being the Michigan's best culture fit, best scheme fit, and best option in a lot of ways. But like Kalen DeBoer's got the track record. He's got he would be an adult in the room. From all accounts, he's a stand-up guy. It would be a splash hire. It would be a big thing to say we stole him away from Alabama, all of that kind of stuff, right? Like, so, you might sacrifice a little bit of the aforementioned with Dillingham if you can get DeBoer, but I am still would prefer DeBoer. But if they feel like DeBoer's got more of an upside, right? They're making pros and cons lists and they look different than mine and yours, right? They do that and they say, all right, this is what we have to figure out if this is going to be the guy. We can't talk to him until this day at the earliest. We need to at least figure out if that's the move we want to make. You do your due diligence. This the same way you do as a person, right? Like, I understand some would say like, oh, you take you take what you can get when you can get it. There's an idiom there, bird in hand and a bush or something. I can't remember how it goes, which is sad. But I just don't think that that's wise in this case. And for anyone who thinks, like we talked about, that like DeBoer very well could sign before his game. And if that's the case, he just wasn't coming. That's a possibility. I don't think Arizona State is in a place where like, especially seeing from the Arizona State Board, what they say their NIL is, I mean, it's a fraction of what Michigan is at. Okay. A fraction. I know the general numbers Michigan's at. It's what Arizona State, if that number is true at 3.5 million, it's a fraction. Of course it's going to be appealing. Like, no, alma mater or not, you don't want to sit there and coach with an arm tied behind your back. And he's got several arms tied behind his back. So we'll see how it goes. But I think we'll know more about who the actual top candidate is probably by Saturday. And we'll start seeing movement by then. But like, for now, just relax. Let it play out. Y'all freak out about everything. You freaked out about the Bryce Underwood stuff. And, you know, like, we were spot on with all of that. So just, you know, it's kind of the same thing. The hashtag let it play out. But just here to try to calm your nerves. And you don't rely on every single update, good or bad, as being like everything's going in the trajectory that you feel like it needs to happen, right? Like, there are setbacks. Bryce Underwood had supposedly reaffirmed LSU. Bryce Underwood had supposedly told Michigan no. And what ended up happening? He ended up wearing a winged helmet all year, being the starting quarterback, right? Like, I haven't a tattoo. I don't think I can pull my sleeve up enough. But I'm going to try to show it to you. I don't think I can. Well, there we go. I'll read it out for those who can't. I mean, I don't know if you can see it on here anyway. It says, there are obstacles on the way to anything meaningful. Weirdly, that's a Jeremy Piven quote that really stuck with me. Back in his heyday playing Ari Gold, did an interview with some magazine, and I thought that was that just always stuck with me. Remember that as you go through this. There's obstacles on the way to anything meaningful. It's not going to be smooth sailing. There's going to be ups and downs. Ultimately, Michigan's going to end up where it needs to be. And I'm pretty confident in that. I'm pretty confident they're not going to end up with, you know, the quality control coordinator at Southeast Tulsa Community College. Okay. Like, they'll end up with a good coach. I'm telling you that. And it should be better than what they had. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back on Thursday. Talk to you then. Peace.